Hello best friends, in this short video I'm going to show you how to recreate this hero section of the Raycast.com landing page. So you can visit Raycast um, website to see what their full landing page looks like, but in this video we'll be focusing on creating just the landing page. So you can see I have recreated it already. This is the wireframe and this is what it looks like with the background. I'm going to walk you through how to recreate this right here in Figma. All right, let's dive right into it. All right, here in Figma, the first thing you have to do is to paste your screenshot. So in order to do that, you can click on the Figma icon here, go to File, and you click on Place Image, and the shortcut key is Ctrl Shift K. So after doing this, under my screenshots, I'll just scroll down to the last one and I'm going to select it. I think this is it here and open it. So I'll place it here. So this is my screenshot. So what I love to do is to crop out the browser header. So I'm using Brave browser, whichever browser you're using, you can quickly just crop that out, holding Control and crop that out down to the last pixel. I'm going to leave the scroll bars there because they're part of the UI. So you can see now, this is 1920 by 978. That's the width and height of this element or the screenshot. So next thing you have to do is to paste your own device. Now in Figma, our device are called frames, or we call them artboards. But in Figma, it's called frames. So you can go to your toolbar here at the bottom, click on frames, or the shortcut key is F, and you're going to see a lot of presets on your right hand side. So I'm going to select under presentation. You can see I have slide, that's 16 by 9, or you can go on that desktop and see if your own device size is there. I love to use the normal desktop, that's 1440 by 1080, but in today's class I'm going to be using the presets, that's 1920 by 1080. So this is my own screen size and I'll try to crop it down this way. Now, the first thing I love to do when I'm designing, right, is I design from bottom to top. So it's more or less like layers, right? The last layer comes first, then I begin to add and build on it. That's how I design. So what I'm going to do right now is to look at this and analyze. Now I have a nav bar here, I have a text here, then I have a background. So the first thing I'm going to add is my background. So I need the background color, right? So I would pick out all the colors I'll be needing all through the design. So I'll draw a rectangle here, just click R, then I'll click on the fill section here under your design panel. Now select the color picker here and pick these colors here. So you can see that's my background color. The next one, I'm going to pick the text color. This is white. You can see FFF. Then I'm going to pick other colors that I'm seeing here. I'm going to pick this gray color, that's for the text. I'll pick this. Then also I'm going to pick the button color, which is this. And my assumption is this black color is also similar to the black color here, but let's check. I'll just try and pick that also. I'll click on this and select this color. So I think it's quite different. So I think this is all the colors I'm going to be using. Now, I'm not going to use their own main brand color. I'll be able to change it later, but for now, let's just pick it. This is their brand color. I'll be changing this later, so I can probably change it to probably an orange color or whichever color that I want, or maybe a blue or a green or whichever color. We'll get to that later. So these are the colors that I'm going to be using. So first thing first, on my own design, I can click on this and I can select my background color, which is this. This is the background color. Or another way to do it is to select this. Either you can select this, you can copy the hex code here, then select this element and also paste that here. That's one way to do it. Now, after doing that, as you said, we are building from what in we are building from bottom to top. So the next thing we're going to do is to add the nav bar. Now, in order to add the nav bar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my own brand logo. You can redesign this if you want using the pen tool, but I'm just going to bring in the logo I used here. So I'll select this. This is my own brand logo, Famous Dev, and I'm going to come back here and I'm going to paste it here. So I'll paste this here. Yeah. Then what else do I need? I need text and I need button, and I also need an Apple icon. Now to get the Apple icon, I'm going to run a quick plugin. That's the Iconify plugin. I'll run that and I'm going to search for Apple, and I think this is it. Yeah. And I'm going to paste this there so you can see it has been pasted on my canvas. Then I'm going to take this out because this is the one I need and delete this one. So I think we have all our assets, right? I'm going to rename this, Control R to rename, then type in Apple logo. So yeah, I believe we have all our assets right now. What we need to do is to build. So first thing first, right? After adding your background, you have to look at it that, okay, this design, we have some white space on the left hand side and some white space on the right hand side. Now, if you don't know the value here, the best thing to do is to measure this. So I'm going to use a rectangle, click on this to select the rectangle and drag to this point here. Now you can see the value of my rectangle is 196. So what I'm going to do on my own design here, I'm going to add a layout grid. So I'll click this to add a layout grid. The grid it serves as a guide, right, to help us to lay elements well on our device. So I'll change this to column, and I'm going to change this to a 12 column grid. Now the margin, which is what I just measured, the space between the space here and here are called margin. So I'm going to come here and type in 196. So that's my margin. Then the space between each of these columns is called the gutter. I'm going to make this 24 pixels because I'm making use of a 4 points or 8 points grid system when building this. Then I'll change the color to white. I love to keep it simple, so I'll use this as white so that I can see other elements there. So we have our grid set. Now what else do we need to do? We need to build the nav bar. In building the nav bar, I already have my logo here, so you can place your logo here, or you can try to even measure the height of the logo if you want to create an exact replica. So you can see this is around 32 pixels. So I'll select my logo to and check. I think my logo is this 24, so I can hit K or select the scale tool here and type 32 to increase this a little bit. So this is my own logo here. Then what next do I need? I need the nav links. So all of these are called nav links because they link to another page on the landing page, while these are called buttons, right? The button allows users to take several actions. So let's build the nav links first. Looking at these nav links, they are very similar because they are the same component. So it means I can just build one and duplicate it across board. In this video, I'm not going to be teaching you how to use components. In our subsequent video, I'm going to show you how to create this using a components-based system. So now let's create it without using components. So I'm going to click T on my keyboard, or come here to select the text tool and click on any empty space. Then type store. So this is my store. I'm going to give it a color, which is this. I can copy the hex code here and paste it there, or I can even use my eyedropper tool or the color picker and pick that color. So yeah. Now, for those that are just getting started, you might not know the size of this text. Now, the best thing to do is to try to eyeball it, or to try to kind of place this here and start increasing your text size. So this is around 16 pixels. You can see 16 is seen as too small, you can basically just click on this and try to eyeball it and drag it this way. So it's going to also increase the size of the text. So when you do that, you'll notice that as if you use the scale tool, that's hitting K or coming here to select the scale tool. Once you do that, you can see I can basically increase or decrease this. Then I can close this here on the design panel. And I'll come here and type 18 because the value I'm getting 17.72. I love to use values that are divisible by 2, 4, or 8. So I'm going to use 18 because that's like the base font size. Now you can't do this when you're trying to create a product. That's like to duplicate it and type Pro, and duplicate this and type AI. And this is the major reason. It is because this is a nav link, right? So it is assumed that users need to have a touch area around this element to access the element. So which means that we have to grab this element inside a container of its own. So for those that are just getting started, what you would have done is to draw a rectangle, yeah, and probably place it at the back here. Just press Control curly bracket again. Just keep pressing it. Yeah, so we have this at the back, or you can right click and click on send to back. You can do that. So that's what you would have done, right? To place it inside a container and remove the peel of the container. But we won't be doing this in this class. We'll do it the right way. So the right way to do this is you select this and add and wrap it inside a container. Now that container, we call it an auto layout container. So if you select the element, right click this way, you can see add auto layout. The shortcut key is Shift A. So I'm going to click on this. This is a container has been added here. So you can see on my layer panel, I have frame 1. That frame 1, I'm going to rename this Ctrl R to nav link. Yeah, so I have my nav link this way. So what I'm going to do, because I want the nav link value, that's the height, to be the same height as my logo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, come to the height and make it to be a fixed height. That's 32, right? And make sure it's at the center. So I think we are good to go. So this is our nav link. Now the next thing to do is to try to gauge the space between each nav link, because there's a space between each of them, right? So if I come here and I type Pro, and I type Pro this way, you can see I have 19 pixels, but I don't want to be using values that are not divisible by 2, 4, or 8. So instead of doing this, first I'm going to select this and increase the value of the padding. The value inside this container are called padding. So with auto layouts added, I can do that on my design panel. Select this, then come here and type in 12 pixels. Yeah, so I have 12 pixels here, or I can increase it to, let's say, 16 pixels. So I can have 16 pixels here. So the value of the left and right, which is this padding, is now 16 pixels. So I can now duplicate this across board and say, okay, this is going to be Pro. This is going to be Pro, and keep on duplicating it that way. But the best way to do it is to also because this element, Shift X to draw a rectangle, that's to invert the fill to stroke. This element is seen as a group. That's all these elements right now, they are seen as a group. So I'll call them the nav links group. It means that I need to wrap these guys inside one container. So I'm going to select this way, select this, and also hit Shift A, or I can right click and add auto layout, but I'll use a shortcut, that's Shift A. Then Ctrl R to rename. I'm going to name this nav link group, or you can call it nav links, right? So I can select this and start duplicating, and I'm going to change their name. So this is going to be AI, this is going to be POS. Let me take this to the bottom so I can see, okay, this is iOS. So iOS with a small letter I. Then we have Windows, we have Teams, we have Enterprise, we have Blog, we have Pricing, and I'm going to delete this other element. So we have our nav links here. So you can see we have our nav links. Now, what else do we need to do? We need to create our buttons. Now, I can use this component and use it to create my button, but with a different name. So I have to remove this from the group here, from these nav links that I have here. I'm going to take this up, which is this, and bring it here. I can change the label to log in, then select this and rename it as button. Ctrl R to rename. So I have my button here. Now duplicate this. Now inside an auto layout container, we can also add another element right inside this container, because you can see this has an icon and a text. So I'm going to pick my icon here, which is this, Ctrl X, and I'm going to paste it inside this auto layout button container, then Ctrl V to paste it inside. So this is it, it is too small. So I can get the size of this icon. To do that, I'm going to just try to draw a rectangle or a square around this. So you can see this 26, it means that it is 24. Since 24 is divisible by 4, I'll come here, hit K to use the scale tool, and come here and type in 24. That's that. So to change the color of my icon while selecting the element, I can scroll down under my design panel. I can see selection colors. I can click on this and apply the color. So I think it's this one for the button text. Also, I can copy that color, select this text, and also use the same color. Then for the background, I'm going to use the background color, which is this one. Then I will change the label to download. Now inside the auto layouts container, which is the button, I can move elements around. I can change the position of this to be on the left hand side. I can just use my back button, right? That's my arrow keys to move this, or I can click and drag this way if you want to do that. So I can bring this here. You can see my button is bigger than other elements, right? So what I need to do is to increase the size, the height of my button. To do that, I can get the size of this, which is, you can see that is around 46 pixels. So if I check it where, you can see it's around 44 pixels, right? Which is divisible by 4. If I can select this and type in 44 pixels because I want a fixed height. So I have this way. This should be at the right hand side. Then we also have to reduce the space between this and this. So what is the space? I can just draw a rectangle here. That's an imaginary rectangle. So this 6 pixels, the width. So this should be around 4 pixels. So I'll come here, I'll type in 4 pixels. That's the gap between each of these under the auto layout section. So we have this and this. So this button too also has to be similar to this, right? So the height of this button should be 44. Then take it to the top. Then this can be, then the space between both of them, Shift A. You can see it's 24. Then I can rename this as what? As button group. So I have my button group, I have my nav links group, and I have my logo. Now, looking at this right now, let's take this 3 to the bottom. You can see that the space I have between the nav links group and my logo is quite different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these guys. Shift X. I'm going to group these guys into one container so that I can increase or decrease the gap between them. I can set the gap between them here. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to select this and hit Shift A to group it inside an auto layout container, then Control R to rename. I'm going to call this container, or you can call it contents or whatever name that pleases you. So I have this right now. Now, what's the space between these two? That's around 16 pixels. I'll select this, come to the gap here and set 16 pixels. Am I right? No, I think I'm wrong. So I'll draw a triangle here. So this is around 64 pixels. This is 66. Notice that when I'm drawing my rectangle, I'm also considering the fact that I have some paddings on those elements, right? That's why I say I'm not drawing it from here to here in this case. So I think that's 64. So select this. The space between this is going to be 64 pixels and press enter. So I have this. Now the last thing to do is to select this and select the two and also group them inside one container. So Shift A, and I'll name this my nav bar, which is this. Now the nav bar also has what? It has a padding. So I can come to this button here and guess the value of the nav bar, which is this. And see that's 24 at the top. Come here. This is also 24 at the bottom. Then come here to get the height here. So that's what 40 pixels. So you can see all these values are what are accurate values that are divisible by 4. So I can select the whole nav bar here, come under the auto layout section on my design panel. Now the padding is for the left. This section is for left and right padding. If I hover on it, you can see. Let me show you that. You can see horizontal padding, right? That's the left and right. I can come here and type 40 pixels. Then top and bottom, I can type in 24 pixels. So we have our what? Our nav bar. So if I take this to the top here, you can see it basically matches the nav bar. Matches the nav bar. Now, what I want to do is to make this a little bit elastic, yeah, so that I don't need to know the size of this space here. I want it to be determined by the container. So what I'm going to do is to change this auto layout here to align it to the left. Basically change the auto layout to updated, which is this. Yeah, select this and change this to have, so select inside here, then you can hit X, or you can come under here and change the gap to auto. That's how to do this. So you have this way. So it means that if I drag, this always remains at the right hand side, this always remains at the left hand side. Now initially, when I haven't done that, if I change this to a particular value and I try to increase this container, you can see it's aligned to the left, right? Because it's not considering that, okay, I want the space in between to be auto. So I'll come here and select auto, or select this and click on X. So last thing we need to do is to also add the background of this nav bar. So I'm going to go to fill and pick a fill here. But you can see the nav bar has some effects. You can see this, right? It has some effects here. So it has a little bit of transparent background. So the background opacity, I will use it to under fill, where we have 100 here, I'll reduce it to 80, right? So there's a little bit transparent. Now add an effect. So under effects and Figma, click on this. Now come to background blur. So I'll increase the background blur value to 12, leave it in uniform. Then what else do I need to do? I need to also round these corners. I think I didn't do that for the button here. This button has corner radius. So to get the corner radius of this button, you can eyeball it, or you can just draw a rectangle around it. and try to, reduce the corner radius. This is where you get to set it here. So you can see this is 12. So you can try and look at it if that's the accurate value, right? I think 12 is the accurate value. So I can come here, select this, and go under corner radius and type in 12. So I have this guy here. Now, also to get the corner radius of the main container, that's the main navbar container, I can do this, try to, eyeball it a little bit. I see that's 22, so I can use 24 pixels. I'm going to use 24 pixels here. And I think there we have it. Then lastly, you can see there's a stroke value here. Yeah, there's a stroke value here. So I'll come here and also add a stroke value. I think we didn't pick the stroke value. Change it to center, then come here, zoom in and try to pick that value here. So you can see we have our own navbar. So I'll take this and bring it inside this and try to align it this way. Try to align it this way. Then we need to know the value of the margin at the top here. So you can see this is around 20 pixels. It's 21 I selected. I can come here and move it to the top first. Alternate W to move to the top, or you can just drag to the top if you want. Then you can use shifts and your arrow keys down to bring it to the bottom by 10 pixels, right? So that's how to do this. Then we are done with our navbar. Now the next thing we need to do is to add our text. So to get this text value, I can just hit T on my keyboard and type in the text value. Your shortcuts to everything, full stop. Now the fonts that they are using is Inter. That's why I'm using Inter. So I didn't change the fonts because I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So what I can do here is to keep increasing the size of this font size. So I can basically just keep increasing the size here and make sure that the container stops here. Change the alignment to the center, then I can keep increasing this value this way, right? Until I get the actual value, so 80 pixels. Then I can change the weight of the text to bold. I think this should work. Your shortcut to, yeah, I think this works. You can see this is bold 80. And lastly, we can also now type the text here. So this should be 18 pixels or 20 pixels. Looking at it, and this should be regular. So I'll type in a collection of powerful productivity tools, all within an extendable launcher, fast, ergonomic, and reliable. Okay, reliable. Let's stop. Now, last thing I'm going to show you to do here is if I place this text to side by side, you can see I got the value, that's 20 pixels, but the space between each line of text, my own text is looking a little bit cranked up. So the space, they have more space here. So how do I increase the space here? What I can do is to increase what is called the line height. So if you select a text element under the typography section of your design panel, you can see I have line height. So let me leave this to auto. I can type auto here. Now I think auto is the value here. So, but the best line height to use when you're having a text is around 1.6. So to do that, just type in 160% here. So you can have something like this. And if you're not okay with that, you can keep on reducing the value. I think within 140 to 160% works. This is 144 pixels. Or you can even come here and just type in a normal value like 24 pixels. So that's the value you want to be between. That's the line height value, which is this. Yeah. Then lastly, you can select these two texts and hit Shift A. call it your hero text. Then you move this to this section, which is this. Now, there's one thing that you need to do, right, to be sure that your design actually works well. So, what I do is to make sure that this is in the center. So, I can hit alternate V, alternate H, right, to make sure this is in the center. And voila, we are done with the first section. Yeah, we missed something, which is the space between this text and this text. So I can see the height is 32. So the space is supposed to be 32 here. So I'll select this, come to my um, gap under my auto layout section and type in 32. Yeah, this is good. I think the vertical trim is turned on. I'll turn that off. Select this, turn off vertical trim. So we have 32 here and we are good. In the next video, we're going to be creating this, guys, as I'm going to show you how I created the background itself. So you can see how I created this background, each of the elements there, and how to get that glass effect and also the texture that was added. All right. I remain your favorite product designer. Um, Make sure you complete these tasks for those that are part of the mentorship from Dev 4.0. And if you're watching this on YouTube, enjoy and let me know when you're done with this. Leave a feedback in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep doing more for yourself, and I remain your favorite Oluwafemi Lawal, or you can call me Famous Dev. Bye, guys.